Hello, Apterians. I had some reaction from my last two videos from people who didn't like the fact that my glasses automatically darken when I'm outside, and also from the sound of birds and wind noise in the background. So I'm going to record this edition just for them for that reason. I'd like to start by giving a huge shout out to the live What Drives Us panel discussion that happens on YouTube every Wednesday evening. And I think everybody who is interested in EVs in general would really enjoy the panel discussion that they have. I certainly get a lot from it. There's also a couple of other upcoming YouTube videos that I'd like you to be aware of and watch for when they come out. This last weekend, Nikki from Transport Evolved visited the Aptera headquarters again, and she got a ride in a beta vehicle. She was also wearing a cool hat in her last show. When they get done with the production of that video in a few days, we're going to have more news on this, and I'm looking forward to it. Also, Sarah and Chad from Drive the Lightning got in touch with me, and I'll be doing an interview with them next week. And I know at least the three of us are going to have a lot of fun. My last bit of news is that Aptera is going to start moving into the much larger factory space that they have in Carlsbad, California. It's a place I stopped by last Thanksgiving, or just before Thanksgiving, and I talked with the foreman of the crew that was working to build out the space. It's pretty exciting, and they're also going to have a much larger, or a rather large battery assembly plant that's located nearby. So we'll be seeing more about that, I'm sure, shortly from Aptera. There's two main reasons I'm interested in Aptera, and I've already talked about the fact that it's a good fit for my own personal needs, that of my wife and I. But the second reason I'm interested in what Aptera is doing is what it can do for improving our environment. Since it doesn't burn hydrocarbons, it's not a direct contributor to the increasing CO2 concentration that we have in our atmosphere. I'm concerned about carbon dioxide and other warming gases because the CO2 traps and holds heat. So does the water in our oceans, and that's a huge moderating force, or the air temperature that we're experiencing would have been rising much faster. The rising water temperatures are also causing an increase in ocean acidification. Much of the additional CO2 in the water is coming from the burning of fossil fuels. And while the rate of absorption of this carbon dioxide in the water is slowing down the rate of increase in the atmosphere, it's also leading to chloral bleaching events and the destruction of shellfish shells because the shells are dissolved by the acid that forms in the water. This is a carbonic acid. So this is resulting in a steady decrease in the complexity of the ocean ecology, and it's making it far less resilient. As the air temperature rises, the water content of the atmosphere is going up. The air can actually hold about 7% more water for every degree C of temperature rise. And this is the reason we're getting more snow and rain in some areas. It's leading to the flooding that we're seeing in places that never used to flood. And because the air currents and the water currents are changing, the places this occur are no longer predictable from past patterns. When the water condenses out as rain or snow, there is a cooling effect, but it's not enough to overset the overall warming. And the effect then is that we continue to get an increase in the temperature. We've also started putting out other more powerful warming gases. One such as methane is about 100 times more powerful than carbon dioxide, And the refrigerant that we started using to replace Freon, 134A, while it's solving the ozone hole problem that Freon was causing, it's got about 1,300 times the global warming potential of carbon dioxide. So we have a need to act that's past urgent. Putting more Aptera on the roads to replace our gas guzzlers is one of the most powerful ways that we can act to reverse course on this, and also it's going to make a big difference in our personal pocketbooks. I wrote an article back in 2012 when the CO2 concentrations recorded in Hawaii reached 400 ppm. Back when the continuous observations began at the Mauna Loa Volcanic Observatory in 1958, the global atmospheric carbon was already 315 ppm. By May of 2013, we were seeing a daily average that was over 400 ppm, and today that average is over 420 ppm, and the rate of rise is increasing sharply. This increased heat is also drying out our forests, and a big result of that is causing more fires. That's something I had way too much personal experience with in California. In 1987, I started to work for Arizona Instrument Corporation, and one of the things we did was to produce the moisture analyzers that were used by the U.S. Forest Service to measure moisture in the forest floors and to issue fire danger warnings. For several years, I also managed our moisture lab. Last spring, the readings around San Jose and Santa Cruz were the driest that had ever been recorded since those readings began. Not only was I a witness to the destruction caused by the subsequent fires, but I was also in Kuwait during the oil field fires there, and I was measuring air pollution for the Kuwaiti EPA. This is why the source of my passion for Aptera goes beyond just having had a thrilling demo ride in a prototype. I am convinced that all of us have a vital interest in the success of projects like this, and we need to support their adoption just as quickly as we can imagine. Thank you. Until next time, this is Iowa Aptera.